Rashonda Thornton, the host of the Dietitian Against Diets podcast show. Thanks to the local farmers and wonderful supporters such as Undeniably Dairy, we are proud to present to you the weekly Wellness Coalition panel series. This is a 10-part series where myself and a rotating cast of experts will discuss meaningful topics, focusing on what means the most to you during this COVID crisis. So that means every Thursday, I'll have panel guests that will bring great insights, perspectives, truths, and possible solutions. So again, thanks to Undeniably Dairy and the local farmers, this is able to be aired to you every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. on my Facebook page at Rashonda Up Better Vessel. You can also see it on my YouTube channel and all other podcast stations and podcast platforms. So enjoy the show. And please reach out if you have any questions or have any topics that may be of interest to you. Well, here we go. Here we are again at the weekly Wellness Coalition series centered around the COVID crisis and how we're interacting with it. The topic of today is talking about the food. You know, food is very important in our lives, but how is the food service industry as well as distribution industry, how are they affected and what are they doing to either ensure that their services stay afloat or preparation to make sure that when things do go back to normal, we're able to kind of go back into some of those places we that we love so much. I'm going to start off introducing some of my guests today. I have with me first Joan Daleo. She is the president of Ole Tyme Food Distribution and Fresh Food Service here in St. Louis. I also have with me Mark Hinkle. He is the owner of a few restaurants in Webster Groves by the name of Olive and Oak and Clover and the Bee. And last but not least, I have with me Thomas Moore, otherwise known as Buzz. He is a food truck owner of Hawaiian Grill here in St. Louis. So we're hitting all corners from food trucks to brick and mortars to even just the distribution portion of it. But we want to really dig in deep and really kind of understand how actually has this really changed the food chain, and how it has become a threat to the food industry in our times. So I want to welcome my guest. I'm glad you guys are able to take time out of your day to be a part of this panel. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we'll get started. We'll jump right into it. So we're going to just really talk about, how has it threatened you guys in respect to your businesses? Just kind of the immediate threat, like when you really kind of first start hearing about it and the preparation you've been taking to kind of keep things afloat or keep things moving as things are progressing. So Mark Hinkle, I'm going to start off with you. As we know, 8 weeks ago, guidelines to prepare us for stay-at-home orders and other precautions that started to come into play. When you first got wind of this, what were some of the immediate changes or effects you saw in your restaurants?
I think we first pivoted to a carry-out only. That first week, the week of St. Patty's Day, I guess like the 15th, when the county first issued the city and the county issued the gatherings of 50 or less. And I know it wasn't necessarily, and there's a lot of gray area there as to whether or not that was directed at restaurants. It was clear to us that whether it was legally binding, we felt that we were certainly in that camp and needed to make a change. So we quickly switched to curbside or carry out only. Did that for about a week, but realized pretty quickly there as well. I mean, from a business standpoint, it was still good. It was busy. People were using the service, and but we had 20 workers at Olive and Oak, another 10 at the Clover and the Bee. It's all in one building. We're looking at it. It's like we're just our employees. We have 30 people here working in close quarters. We have guests coming in constantly, and still at that point they were still coming in the space. People weren't, wearing masks, doing all the stuff we're doing today. It was a very different thing. And after that first week, we just said, this is not what we need to do. And we ceased all operations and, furloughed about 95% of our employees. And, we kept on our executive chef, who's a partner in the restaurant, and our finance manager and our HR manager to help us and all of our furloughed employees navigate everything. So it was, just really kept the people around that could help get through the time when we were closed, hopefully. And unfortunately, I had to let everybody else go and, just watch for support from DC, et cetera, on legislation to help. And, fortunately some came, and I'm sure we'll get into that more later, but that was kind of the initial, and we laid low for a while and just now have gotten back into some really minimal curbside pickup.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
starting to ease back into it, but still very cautiously at this point.
And that's something to consider, and not just your customers. They're important, but then you start thinking about your employees, and you have a large number of employees. You have to think about their safety. So that was something just myself as a consumer would not have thought about as far as one of the components to think about as a business owner. So yes, a lot that you had to, unfortunately, move around to, prepare yourself for this gap, but also find a way that you can ease back into it in a safe way. And so speaking of like the curbside, you guys had transitioned to curbside. Now I know Buzz, you having a food truck, your business centered around crowds, events, and probably the curb, no pun intended. And so not having access to your clientele like that, was there similar things that you had to do in regards to just preparing for it, or how did it affect your particular business as a food truck owner?
Yeah, we were just coming out of the winter season, which is expected to be slow for food trucks. Our staff is real light over the winter time. Our menu is restricted. We don't carry everything that we would during normal times. We're only going out a couple times a week. We're really counting on that spring time to, open up, and we start ramping back up for the whole season, only to find ourselves being kind of shut down. One of the things that helped us is that we had used the off season through the late fall, winter time to establish an online ordering system. And it was really a kind of a skip the line, so that when we are at the events and we've got, 30, 40 people in line, people could be using their phone app to order from us and skip that and just kind of go, straight to the side window and pick up and walk off. So we were in position already to do online with, the money transactions online, the orderings online. The customer just has to walk up to the window and we give them a bag to leave. So the curbside restrictions, we were really kind of ready to go with that, because we were already doing it for kind of the reason we did it also for the corporate lunches. People don't want to come outside in the wintertime and stand in line, so they could order from their desk, just walk out, and our system assigns a pickup time, and so it tells them when to come out to the truck, and they're just going to pick up and leave. They're not going to wait in line at all. So we were ready to go with that. But about 3 weeks ago, when Missouri was estimated to be hitting the peak of the infections, we decided to shut down completely, and just kind of take a deep breath and wait out that period. So we go back out tomorrow, Friday and Saturday, doing curbside using that online ordering system. So, trying to test the water, see if people are ready to start coming back out again. But we won't have the crowds. All the events that were planned, Food Truck Fridays and, municipal park concerts in the park with food trucks, all that's been canceled through up to June. And we're starting to see some of them even think about canceling the June. All of our Food Truck Association hotspots have been suspended until the end of May, and we're fingers crossed that we'll be able to reestablish those if the workers all come back to work.
Yes, I mean it's so many things that creates a change for something. It creates a change for something, and like you don't even realize just how much of an impact it's making, when other industries are not being able to, fulfill, what they do, which creates an effect on you. And I'm sure we're in uncharted territory right now. So it can be a lot of confusion / hope / not knowing what stuff to take, but at least you guys have something established. So as things are progressing, you will have some way of getting revenue in, and keeping your fingers crossed as these months continue, to hoping that we do get some of those venues back. Now, Joan, you're at the kind of the front end, not the very, very front end, but you're that middleman between the
Yeah.
produce and the restaurants right now. And my question, I'm sure the ripple effects that you experienced and that you've seen in the restaurant industry, what, especially considering now people are not eating in restaurants. So, I mean, restaurants and schools that you guys probably distribute, the food is not going there anymore. So,
Right.
what does that mean now? And like, how has what kind of effect has that had on the food distribution part of it?
Well, food distribution is greatly affected. I would say the vast majority of both broadline distributors, such as like Cisco and people carrying like 15, 20,000 SKUs, and then a smaller company with us, maybe 3,000 SKUs. Okay, so it doesn't matter. Either way, severe blow. It's a severe blow to the food supply chain. The food supply chain was divided between retail segments and wholesale segments. And they're very different. They don't cross over. There's done a lot of pack size that are alike. There's different grower shippers, even some of the grower shippers that produce those pack sizes can't convert easily over. Once you have a distribution disruption of this size, like we've had, it's very difficult to recover because it's based on efficiencies. It's based on being able to pick up truckload quantities of at various shippers, not say a straight load of carrots, but a mixer loads to bring that fresh product in on a very, very regular basis to supply to restaurants. It allows them to use these fresh products. Once that's broken, as though it has been, it's extremely difficult to start it back up. So just as an example, we fly flower boxes every day full of fresh herbs, specialty products, those kinds of things off the coast. So today we're like trying to fly like 1 or 2 boxes a week, maybe. And for several weeks we flew nothing. But the problem is trying to fill them, even a flower box now, because we're bringing in product that we don't know if we're going to sell. We may or may not sell it. In many instances, we haven't sold it. We're throwing away stuff that we just bought. It's those kinds of things. Everything is based on just in time in our food supply system. And America is one of the most efficient and abundant food sources that there is. But these kinds of radical disruptions to it make it incredibly difficult to move the product in the efficient manner that which we've been moving it in. And so I expect it to be a very rough roll back in. So we are an essential company. We serve some nursing homes, we serve many hospitals, and we serve some schools that are feeder schools to that people rely on that for their meals. So we could not close down. Okay, so that was so we had to continue to stay open, and but even within that time frame that we've stayed open, we have seen shortages of many products. So there's huge demand now in certain veins. For instance, tiny bags of carrots called carrotinis. Huge supply need for them right now because they go in bags that you can give to someone like a child for a bagged lunch. Okay, we're probably selling more in a week than we sold in 6 months before, but now we're having problems getting them because again, the demand is all circling around just a few products. And that's why you see on TV the farmers that are disking product and things like that, because 50% of our food supply went to restaurants. Those restaurants are not using those products. And people may not even know how to use some of the products, as an example, that Okinawa routinely used in their restaurants. They're chef trained. Most of us as an American, I mean, I'm not a chef. I mean, I'm a regular household cook and maybe not even a good one. But my point is, I'm going to go to the store and buy some real like stuff that I absolutely know I'm going to cook with and can probably use. And so it's hard to just make a really quick turn. You're talking about seasons and the uncertainty of knowing what's ahead makes it very difficult right now for farms or anyone to make those turns that they need to make if this were a permanent situation, but it probably isn't permanent. But it's a very difficult time right now in distribution because it's based on efficiency and there is none.
Uh, Well, that's a lot. And I'm glad that we're
It is
having
a
this
lot,
conversation,
actually.
because the regular person or consumer or customer, we don't know we don't understand that part of it, and so we don't understand how that gouge right there in the system, how it's going to ripple effect to restaurants, to us. And then when things start to going back to this normalcy, now it's shifting gears again. And I'm sure that is something that's another big task to take on.
Yeah, I think that the issue, one thing that we should highlight too, is that I don't know that there's been a generation, maybe 4 generations ago, where you would go into a grocery store and have you ever seen stocked out shelves in America? I mean, as long as I've been alive, I've never gone into a grocery store and seen whole aisles where there wasn't anything. And right now, there are stores where you can go in, and certainly we've all know about the paper goods that are missing, the toilet paper, the paper towels. But if you go into like some of the aisles where there's pasta or soup or sort of what I call, canned items, even those
Mm-hmm.
aisles have been sparse in stores at times right now. And we've never experienced that. And I know certainly produce for a while was in certain grocery stores I heard was very limited or
Yes.
gaps. We're not used to seeing that. I mean, we go into grocery stores and we see everything, and
Mm-hmm.
it's always
Yes.
full.
And that's, I thought that when I saw the meat aisles empty, meat shelves empty, or I saw the aisles of canned goods empty, I thought it was that people were just still buying a lot of food. So some of it has to do with there's just not the ability of the food to be there from the distribution end of it, correct? Wow.
Yeah.
So as we're talking about these adjustments and the ways that we're adapting, whether we have a choice or not, I'm going to ask you another question in regards to your employees. Now that there's a halt, and you represent, you may be a smaller distribution company compared to some of the large ones, but like you say, you face the same struggles. Now that, what does it look like for your employees and just the people that work for the company with this big gap in the middle? Is that something, how does that affect the workload with the employees?
Well, we're cut our distribution days down. So we do deliver certain locations. We deliver 5 days a week. We used to deliver 6, but there's many, many accounts that we only deliver 3 days to now. So that greatly has reduced the hours for our drivers or warehouse people, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you know, my business probably very much like the restaurant also, and you would have to speak to this, yourself. But a lot of the costs are somewhat fixed. You have a building, you have refrigeration costs, you have trucking leases. Those things don't stop whether you're delivering, 90 locations or you're delivering 300 locations. You have essentially the same chassis, so you have a small difference in your labor cost, but most of your costs are somewhat fixed. This has been difficult on our employees. We would try to find more work. So one of the things that we've done is we've pivoted out to retail. So we sell direct to consumers today. So we offer wide variety of sort of more what I would call household sizes and more breadth of grocery type items,
Okay.
meats and cheeses and dairy. And that's been successful because I think people want that contactless system where they, drive up, their order's completely filled. We put it in their trunk and they drive away.
Okay.
We've done some work doing logistics using our trucks for in other businesses that are not our own, but we're doing the driving and hauling from point A to B. And we're working on a government contract which will produce boxes for the food banks that they distribute throughout the state of Missouri.
Okay.
But again, those are ways that we're trying to use our employees to keep them all employed, so they keep their insurance, they keep their health benefits, they keep their wages, and they don't have to rely on what could be limited funds from an unemployment fund and
Mm-hmm.
no health insurance. I mean, it's an incredible worry. So we have about
Yes.
85 or 90% of our employees still working, but
Okay.
it's
Saved
scary.
routine a little.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's scary.
Oh, it is. It is.
Yeah.
Well, at least you guys have found something. I mean, this is scary moments for all of us in our respected industries. Now, Buzz, I know that you had mentioned the fall is really your slow time, and now, and you're looking for the spring and summer is when there's higher success and revenue, and with that, on top of what's happening, you're getting hit back to back. basically. So I asked you earlier about, some of the strategies. I've heard that some food trucks, particularly like in some of the East Coast and West Coast areas, they have found ways to go to neighborhoods and just really, tweet it out to the neighbors and to the neighborhood and just go there and be able to serve them. You can kind of cart yourself to people a lot more than like a brick and mortar. So, like, kind of what have some of been? I know you say you have the online system getting reestablished. Has there been other tactics that you've been able to take during these times?
Yes. So tomorrow we're going to an apartment complex that invited us to come. Everybody's at home working, and so they need lunch service at the complex. We'll use the online ordering for social distance purposes so that people will be able to order from their home and then walk out to the truck and pick up. And then we're going to do a private business on Friday night for dinner pickup. So we'll just be in the parking lot and people from all over can order and pick up. And then Saturday we're invited to a neighborhood in South County. And same thing, basically we'll use the online service to, control the crowd so that we don't have 60 people from the neighborhood standing in line causing an issue. So hopefully we're encouraging them to use the online ordering and then come pick them on their assigned time so that there's not a large crowd outside. That's kind of a new market going into the neighborhoods. It wasn't uncommon for neighborhoods to have block parties during the summer and invite us to come to the block party and serve. It was a little bit of a different arrangement because that was more of a party. For us, it was kind of a luau in the neighborhood event. As compared to now, it's, hey, we're all stuck at home and we're getting tired of the same delivery service. We want to do some type of food truck. So that is kind of a new market. It'll be interesting to see if it continues past the era that, before we have life goes back to normal. It could be part of the new normal. It also brings in some of the what I would consider out-of-date ordinances, because you have to be careful what city or township you're being invited to go to. They might have ordinances that don't allow food trucks. Maplewood's an example. They don't allow food trucks. So you can't just, show up in a neighborhood and start serving. So there are restrictions. St. Louis City has restrictions, can't be within 200 feet of a brick and mortar restaurant. And so you have to be observing those type of rules. But it is new, trying to find where's the crowd. They're not out in the parks. They're not having activities. They're at home. So if we can get into those neighborhoods, it's a win-win.
Okay. Well, good. What's the word? You got to stay innovative. You got to stay creative. And sometimes we're forced to make these adjustments, but then it's always, I'm the person that always look at the right side of things. There's also creates an opportunity that hasn't been tapped into. So, hopefully, that'll hold you guys until things go back to normal. Then that may be a new market that will be a part of it.
Yep.
Mark, my question for you is, you briefly talked a little bit just how you started off with a kind of a curbside setup, and I'm sure it's adjustment for you because when you probably your customers know it's a fine dining restaurant, but they're still accustomed to that fast food feel. So I'm not sure though if those some of the growing pains that you guys experience transitioning to a delivery service or a curbside service. But now that you guys have kind of taken a pause on things and you're slowly easing back into it, one of the biggest things to consider is some of the aggregate companies that does food delivery. Like DoorDash, Uber Eats, some of those other ones. Have you guys thought about if this continues, how would you kind of pivot and incorporate that, or is that something that you may just you may not dip too deep into?
I mean, we worked with Uber Eats in the past. We certainly have experience with these companies. They are not necessarily the best partners, if I can say it that way. I'm working currently with some people and drafting some legislation to introduce to St. Louis City and County to start looking at restricting their their fees because they're utterly outrageous. So, I think it's a service that I think is a great service, and I think people want that ability to order their favorite restaurants and have it brought to their house. But there's a small amount of them, and they have their prices fixed, and it's not, they don't act as a partner to the restaurants, and that's or to the guests. I think everyone along the system gets hit with outrageous fees, and they should be able to make their fair share. I just think they take advantage of the demand for their product and the lack of competition. So,
yeah. Have you guys considered doing your own delivery service?
What's that?
I'm sorry. Have you guys thought about doing your own setup with that, or just kind of we'll see how that goes?
Talked about it when we first started furloughing staff, and I think that was still before we saw just the how severe the situation was as far as what this virus was. And not to say we wouldn't bark back up that tree, but we haven't yet. I mean, I think if we did, we'd keep it pretty minimal. I think most of our food's designed to be eaten on premises. So I think you're getting into designing a completely different product than what you're currently offering, and that's a big challenge for us. We know certain things work well. Our burger pop-ups curbside have been incredibly popular, but overall we're more of an experience than just the food, and that's such a big thing when you look at full service restaurants, is we're providing well beyond that, the food that's on your plate, and that's just something you can't replicate in a delivery or curbside model. And you do the best you can, but it's such a different world than what we do on a daily basis. So I think what we're doing right now is just trying to do the best to represent what our product is, and let our guests that crave that food get at least that aspect of our experience. But it's such a far cry from what the whole Alvin Oak or Clover and the Bee package is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a paradox. Like you want to find ways to continue to employ your employees and find ways to still keep a presence, keep the business going. But if you go too far outside of like your mission, then that creates exposure. Right. And so I'm sure it's a slippery slope in making those decisions, especially in a family-oriented, tight, thick community like Webster Groves. Yeah, very familiar with Webster Groves.
It is such a great neighborhood, and they are everyone's so incredibly supportive. So I think people kind of have ridden the waves with us and our other restaurants and businesses in the neighborhood, and it's some of the one of the bright things you see in these times is just that support and community coming together to support each other, and it's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Well, hang in there, because I definitely want to. It's one of my places I go into in Webster, Clover and Bee for brunch. So hang in there. So I'm sorry.
I said we appreciate that.
Yes. So right now, we're seeing a little bit of transition, over the last week. And some ordinances are being lifted in certain areas, I believe St. Charles in particular. So now, Joan, since of course you mentioned earlier that 50% of your revenue is from restaurants. Now it's I guess what is that looking? You've probably already experienced how we talked about once the engine stops and then to get it rolling again, it's kind of a task within itself. I'm seeing the engine starting to roll now, especially in the western part of the St. Louis area. Have you guys already, been able to kind of be in line with that, or has it been kind of hard? How are you guys juggling that in other cities, other areas too, that has not opened up their restaurants? So you're like in the middle, kind of.
Yeah, there's a little bit of pop, okay, but it's minor.
Okay.
People, even though the ordinances opened up, people have not opened up. And so I think it's going to take more time. I think you have to stop having more hospitalizations, you have to see, you can't every day turn on your TV, there's 8,000 cases in Missouri, then there was 8,600, then there was not, those numbers have to level off, I think, before people have the confidence. And when you go out today, like when you go into some of the restaurants that did open, I mean, there's a fraction of the people that used to be in those restaurants. So, by
Mm-hmm.
ordinance. So there's social distancing within the restaurant. Many of them are operating with limited menus. Um, so it's still a game of trying to have. I mean, we're used to. I mean, every company in my business is used to a, you know, high 90 percentile, 99 percentile fill rates, 99.5% fill rates. I mean, we're used to having everything that you could possibly desire and being able to deliver it to you. You order today, we get it there tomorrow. That's our business. And so today, every day we're subbing people things that they didn't exactly order, but it's the closest thing we have to what they ordered. Things like that. It's part of trying to deal with a supply chain that's basically broken and limited menus and pared down everything. It's hard. It's a very hard to be in our business today because it's disheartening. I mean, we're used to being able to please everyone. So it's
Mm-hmm.
very similar to Mark said. We're creating an experience for customers, and we want to delight you. We want you to be able to call up, and if you're asking us for this, I mean, you know, anything that he could imagine creating for his guests to create that kind of experience, we expected to have it and be able to deliver it there the next day. And
Yeah.
today, sometimes, I mean, he could be ordering the simplest of things and we couldn't get it there. We're giving him the second or third choice that he might have had. So it's a difficult time, and I think that's going to be part of the problem too of getting people back to restaurants. Part of it is exactly what he said. Restaurants are an experience. They're ingrained in the culture of what we do. They're everything that we do. We celebrate there. We're post funerals there. We're everything around a restaurant experience. And so getting them back to that standard, to what he's talking about, that delight, can be very difficult when you're 6 feet apart and there's all these different rules and the supply chain is broken on top of that. It's going to be hard. We'll get there. It's just going to
Yeah.
take some time.
Which is going to
To,
mean we
to,
need patience across the board.
Yeah.
to echo what Joan was saying, from a restaurant standpoint, we're having trouble getting the supplies we need. If you have specialized menu items and you can't get them, sometimes the substitute's not adequate enough, so we take that off the menu, so that we don't jeopardize the customer's experience. But Hawaiian food is kind of unique, so our ingredients coming from Hawaii in a lot of cases, we're having trouble getting the 50-pound bags of rice that we're accustomed to. We did kind of plan ahead when things started. We saw the toilet paper thing going, and being from Hawaii, where we're used to shipping strikes, airline strikes, weather coming through and knocking the islands off their feet for a while. That's why spam's so popular. People are used to stocking up, and so when I saw the toilet paper, we bought bulk pork, bulk steak, bulk chicken, bulk ahi. We got kind of ahead of the game so that we're buying it at the current pricing. That's the other thing with the food chain is we're seeing prices go up. So
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
couple you know you buy a gross of eggs, they're costing, $7 more than they were before. Um, we're seeing an increase in almost everything, especially in produce. So we're gonna, if we bought enough in the ahead of time that we can ride that old price for a while and see how it goes. We also want to see, as business starts to rebound, do the suppliers start bringing their price? They can afford to bring their price maybe back down to where it was. We may not have to change our pricing, Henry. But if it continues, if the supply chain is limited, their pricing's going up, and we're serving for or limping along, let's say through the fall and into the winter, the restaurants will probably have to creep their prices up to cover some of that cost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
employees. That a lot of the restaurant employees have gone into landscaping temporarily, and they're not going to let go of that job if they're not secure that the restaurant business is, really coming back full force. They're going to hang on to that landscaping until they see, something else. I just use that one
Yeah.
as an example. There's a lot of industries they've jumped into, but a lot of the workers have gone to other places for employment.
So many ways that people are affected. Buzz, I'd like to tell you now I understand why spam is so popular in Hawaii now.
Yeah,
That was always
was
a
new.
question for
I,
me.
I had no idea that was the.
I didn't either. I knew it
Oh
was
yeah, there's
popular.
a lot of stuff, a lot of canned goods, not just spam, but a lot of canned goods.
So it's a
Like,
functional reason too.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's absolutely functional. I was on the North Shore in what, 86, I guess it was. No, about 82, when
Uh-huh.
Hurricane Eva came through. And the town I lived in, we were out of power for 2 weeks. So even though I'm driving to Honolulu and we got power there, the North Shore is just without power. So you have
Oh
to have
boy.
those. You have to have
Makes sense.
bags of rice, and you got to have spam.
Got it now. I know what to do next time there's another epidemic. I know
Yeah,
what canned goods I'm gonna get. Now Buzz, as we're talking about this uplifting ordinances uplifting, and you're talking about how you already have bookings to go to some places this weekend. And I asked you this earlier via email, and you really gave me a good two-faced question answer, because I think it's two ways to look at this. My question for you as we are kind of opening up and people are starting to get out a little bit more, even though you're a business owner, you're also a person too. But how do you see this as an opportunity, or as a like kind of or a vulnerability to just people being more exposed, or even to your business, because
sure.
it'll it'll ricochet back.
Yeah, initially, definitely saw it as a vulnerability. Still is. We don't have the business to ramp back up. We were supposed to launch our second truck this year, but we shut all that down because we don't want to spend the money. We want to keep that money in the bank because we don't know how long this low revenue situation is going to be. So we got to keep that money in reserve so we're not building out the second truck. So there's some downfall there. We're looking for the opportunities in it, like going into the neighborhoods and carving out some new markets, growing that online pickup service. Those are all, I would consider them opportunities. The question will be which one outweighs the other, and we'll only know that, probably next spring, where we see did those new markets remain while the old markets come back, and so you're doing everything's running on full cylinders, or is it something where this lingers on until next spring, next summer, where we don't have the confidence as a society to just go out in public and have festivals and stand, have large crowds, baseball games, and so everybody's kind of unsure. So like Joan mentioned, we can open everything back up again, but if people aren't trusting that we're really ready to do that, then they're not going to go outside. They're not going to go to the parks and concerts and things like that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely have to be on your toes. One of the things I like about being a business owner is that, and being a small one, you can pivot and say, okay, we're going to try this for a while and we'll see how that goes. And we may do away with that new market later on, but right now it might be really what's going to keep us afloat.
Yeah. Yeah. Good perspective. And now, you have to consider so many different things. And I'm seeing it now, on the other side. As each of you are talking about this, I don't want to downplay my pains, but I think everyone has their own pains, and you want to respect each person's pains. But just hearing just the position that you guys are in, it's a day to day, stress. You want to continue to keep your business at the same time, be able to serve those that you serve. And you can't move no more than the needle was moved, and that's a day to day thing. So I'm sure it creates a lot of stress through going through this. So let's just create some hypotheticals in a way that we can always create best scenarios, worst scenarios, but I really think that our new normal it's going to be a new normal. I call it the new frontier because I don't think we're going to go back just yet to, everyone thinks they're going to go back to hanging out at the ballpark village and, going downtown and just philanthropy downtown. Like, we're not going to really be able to do all those things. So, it's really going to keep changing the face of just the food industry itself. And I know it's still a day-to-day thing. And Mark, I just kind of asked you, as you are slowly easing back into this and being precautious, and even having two restaurants, how, if we were to fast forward this, let's say, I know it's, it may be irrelevant to think about it, but it's always good to think ahead. How is this thing rolls out in about, would it be like, let's say 8 months down the road or even 12 months down the road? What things do you think that you have realized going through this that will probably be something that be in place for your restaurants in the future?
No, like you said, it's tough to tell, and I'm certainly hopeful that in that sort of time frame, I mean, we're going to be relying on medical advancements, I think, to see normal again. So whether it's testing and treatment or vaccines, that's certainly the answer to seeing any sort of normalcy in our restaurants. And that's what I'm looking towards, because like we talked about earlier, it's just not what we do at Olive and Oak, what so many restaurants do. It's about that community and the people and the experience and the, it's not the same if it's not busy. It's not the same if you have people every 6 feet and masks on. So it's just such a different world. And I think we're going to change and adapt as we need to right now. But I see full service restaurants, when that time comes, coming back as strong as ever.
Yeah.
It's going to be a time. It's not going to, when Sam Page says on the 18th or whenever that restaurants can open back up in St. Louis County, we aren't going to call in all our staff and start bringing in food and fill our restaurants, or even fill them halfway. It doesn't work. I mean, that business model doesn't work for a restaurant. It doesn't work with our whole structure. So I think you'll see more people riding out the curbside and the carry out and delivery services versus we're operating half empty restaurants. But the downside there is then you don't have the jobs to offer to your staff in that capacity. You don't have the demand for food that helps support businesses like Ole Tyme and other vendors. So it's until we can get back to operating at capacity, there's just massive impact on our industry and all the industries that support us and we support.
Yeah. Do you as where you stand? I know each restaurant is totally different. Are you feeling like you guys will be able to ride this out? If it was another 6 months, if it was another 8 months, 12 months.
I mean, we will. It won't be easy, but I mean, it's like I said, it would be extremely damaging to individuals, to local and national economy if that's the situation. But I think unfortunately that is. So I think we are going to just be forced to continue to evolve our operations and find ways to just stay afloat right now. I think that's everyone's goal. I think no one's talking about profits right now. That's we're just worried about staying afloat, keeping our work family afloat, and
staying healthy.
Do what we love, right? Yeah, not dying is a priority. So
just a little.
Yeah, it's crazy, but that's what it is right now. And if we can just get by, then I think that's our goal right now. Is how can we just get by? How do we break even, take care of our staff, maintain a relationship with our regulars in our community, and come out on the other side? And the day that you do have the medical advancements needed to get people out, people are going to be chomping at the bit to get back out and go to Food Truck Fridays and go to full restaurants and go into big event spaces and go to Cardinal. It's like people are eager right now almost unfortunately, because it's not time yet. But
Yeah.
Right.
so it's
Yeah.
just we're just waiting and watching and taking it one day at a time and doing what we can to survive each day, I guess.
Yeah. That's pretty much, I agree. Thus, you seem like you had something that you wanted to say.
Yeah, tracking those daily sales numbers are not fun today like they normally would be. You look at them and you're like, yeah, we're doing this much better than last year, and the next month is even better than that, and we have our goals all set for the year. And now I'm looking at us, and we're just, flat. We're not, the goals are just out the window because you're just like Mark said, you're just trying to keep your minimal staff employed, and you're thinking about strategizing for being ready when the market does come back, when the health safety is secure and everybody's ready to go. It's like a big train that comes to a halt and it's got to start back up again. It's going to be very, very slow. The food chain has to rebound first, and then you got to see the trust of the consumers, and then we have to start finding employees to start ramping up, and then it all could stop again. So you're kind of hesitant. Um, you know, it's
Yeah. It's
it's tough,
tricky.
and I see some of my restaurant owners and food truck owners really struggling, and it's hard to watch.
And I was going to actually ask you about that because I'm sure you're part of food truck association, and I'm sure that there are different levels to how each company is affected. And I can only assume that it may not be as many standing when we go through this wave in respect to their business, imploding.
Absolutely. We try to sock away a lot of money because we want to take it easy during the wintertime, and not stress. And so, luckily, we were kind of still in that mode. We never kind of came out of the cocoon, and still kind of floating along last year's savings to, not stress. But not everybody's in that situation, and some of our trucks are, having a tough time. Some of them, I'm sure, are going to close. I know that there's many that they can't afford to even go out if you could go out. You have to have the money to buy the food, and you got to have the money to hire employees, and you have to pay, your kitchen space, and it's not easy. And they're, brick and mortars are doing the same thing. They're just, how do we stay in striking position, kind of strategic position to be ready to go, without putting too much out there at risk. We were throwing out food that, produce that we didn't feel it was even good enough to give away to some of our food pantries. You think you're going to use it, and then you're not going to use it, and then it doesn't make it to anywhere. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
hard to see that happen.
And I'm not sure if each and every one of you guys know what I do for a living, but I'm a dietitian. And when I hear about food waste, and then I hear communities are not getting food, like it just hurts my heart.
Yeah.
Especially when for you, Buzz, I'm sure all of you guys are seeing it, and experiencing it. It's a hard thing to see just waste coming out of your hard work personally and business wise, but also how that's happening, and then you still have people that are in need of food, and it's not even can't even get it to them. And as we're getting kind of close to the end, Joan, you did mention that too. Like there's a high amount of food waste, and I mean, I can only imagine, when we go back to the agriculture industry and how it's just affected in so many ways. And like you said, it's going to be hard to get these wheels a turning when the times do get back to normalcy. Have you guys? I mean, it's kind of a rhetorical question because you can't really say, "Oh, this is what I plan to do." But what are some silver linings that you see that could come out as you guys are preparing for, as things are moving, if things are moving in a positive direction?
Well, one thing, I mean, I do want, you to know, and hopefully your viewers to know, is that the government recognizes the extreme hardship on restaurants and how many people they employ, and how supportive our farm agricultural sector is of restaurant business. And that's why you're seeing this massive amount of liquidity put into buying agricultural products by the USDA. USDA is going to buy over $100 million of agricultural products each month from May 15th to December 31st to support farms so they don't go out of business, and run that box production for the food pantries through distributors across the nation. 600 distributors across the nation applied for those to service that business, to support their own workers, to support the farms, and then to get the food out. So they really do recognize it. But there are silver linings. One of the things that we're learning is that we were really, really specialized. So agricultural products used for restaurants and those used for retail were very, very specialized channels. I believe going forward, those will be more blurred. You'll see more retail pack sizes come into the food service lanes and vice versa, so that we can pivot more quickly our farms to produce pack sizes should anything in the future happen. I think that too, companies are learning to reach out and partner with people that they otherwise didn't know, didn't realize there could be a partnership there. There's a lot of, there will be a lot of different things come together. But I believe that there will be silver linings. But again, it's going to be a tough road. It'll be a tough 6-8 months more to go, I think, before they say 6 to 8 quarters will be the recovery, full recovery for our sector, for the food service sector to fully recover to where we were pre-COVID. And I think
Wow.
that's probably true.
It's a long time. Yeah. But
Yeah.
if it's what's needed, the things are totally, no point of, like Mark said, or rushing it, because then we're going to go backwards and go backwards even further. So being patient, riding it, and just being hopeful as the scene opens up, I think that's just the best thing to do. And I do appreciate listening to every person's perspective, their insight. I know that when the time does come, people are going to want some nice fine dining food. They're going to want some Hawaiian grill food, and they're going to want to even be able to go out to pick up food in a larger amount with some of the services that Ole Tyme is presenting right now. So let me just create opportunity for everyone just to kind of give, like, where people can learn about their company, make orders, and just contact them. Mark, we can start with you.
What was it? I'm sorry.
I hear the sirens in the background. Oh, I just said we're closing, and so at some point, people will start getting back into those restaurants. So I just want to give you an opportunity to just give us the names of your restaurant, where they're located, maybe the website, so that people can learn about it and possibly, order some things in when it's that time.
Appreciate that. We'll get there. It'll take time, but I know we will. So we have Olive and Oak in Webster Groves, Missouri, along with the Clover and the Bee, both next door to each other, 100 and 102 West Lockwood. www.oliveandoakstl.com and cloverstl.com.
Yes. All right. And Buzz, you can go for it.
You can find us on our website, which is the name of the company, Buzzes with an S, Buzzs, Hawaiian, 2 I's, Grill with 2 L's.com. Or you can find us on the Food Truck Association, which is stlfta.com.
Okay, great. And Joan? And also, Joan, can you let people know that what you guys are doing right now as far as the food and going to consumers, so they do know they can go there and pick up things right now if they needed to?
Yes, we have our main website for the wholesale company is oletyme.com. So it's oldtime.com. And for consumers, they can go to OTPRO, so it's otprodirect.com. And there you'll see a whole bunch of consumer products and some wholesale pack sizes that you can buy direct and pick up curbside.
Okay, great.
Hopefully that fills out.
Well, I do once again thank you guys for being a part of this panel discussion. It was a very much needed conversation and create some great insight on what's happening on the other side of consumers. I hope that, when things open up, I will see you guys in person. So thanks for coming on, guys.
No, thank you
Well,
for having us.
So continue to come back for more wellness related topics. Please join me every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Central Time, right here in my dining room to help give you information on all wellness related topics that mean the most to you during these times. And don't forget to support our students by going to www.genyouthnow.org to learn about their grant funding program in response to the COVID-19 crisis. It's called For School's Sake. So follow them on Facebook and Instagram and see all of the impact they are making by supplying schools with resources and food needed to keep our students safe and fed. So thanks again and see you soon.